Welcome to the Know. I'm Ashley Jenkins.
I'm John Rice.
The fall barrage of video games is finally officially underway. Woo. Gears of War 4. Don't sound too excited, alright? Gears of War 4 makes its debut on Xbox One and PC next week, or tomorrow if you've got the Ultimate Edition.
Reviews are trickling out for the cover-based shooter, meaning we can finally find out whether or not the game is any good.
Yeah, it's been a long time since we've had a proper Gears game. Judgment came out in 2013, but it's not exactly remembered as a core part of the series. We haven't played a core entry since 2011 when Gears of War 3 closed out Marcus Phoenix's violent curb-stompy struggle against the Locusts.
Curb-stompy struggle. That's what we're going to go with.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what was on the box.
Now, the Coalition is picking up where both Epic and People Can Fly left off, trying their hand at bringing the franchise to the next generation with the Xbox One. There have been a lot of questions surrounding this new entry, including how it hands off the reins to Marcus Phoenix's son, JD, and how the series holds up under new management.
All right, time to let out a cold train. Woo, baby! Or, maybe a more aggressive, duty, sporty version of that and less drunk girl version.
Duty, sporty version is my favorite Spice Girl.
Right, because so far the early answer seems to be, the game's pretty good. Gears of War 4 is sitting at an 85 on Metacritic, at least at the time of writing.
As to how that compares to the rest of the series, Gears of War 1 started things off with an impressive 94, Gears of War 2 released at a 93, Gears of War 3 wrapped things up at a 91, and Gears of War Judgment totally dropped the ball with a 79.
So it's not as good as the trilogy, but it's better than Judgment. Right? That's pretty much what that is saying. It's bringing it back a little bit, not all the way, but it's bringing it back a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like average.
Yeah. How are the bigger outlets scoring Gears of War 4? On the higher side, Twinfinite gave it a 5 out of 5. That's perfect. Game Informer and IGN busted out the decimal points to 9.2 out of 10. Game Rant and Attack of the Fanboy awarded a 4.5 stars out of 5. EGM and Polygon reviewed it at a 9 out of 10. The Guardian scored it 4 out of 5, and GameSpot came in with a 7 out of 10.
The general consensus about Gears of War 4 is that its story, which takes place decades after the original trilogy, as you might expect given that it involves Marcus Phoenix's son, and focuses on a new enemy threat called the Swarm, is a smaller and tightly focused adventure with fantastic pacing, fun set pieces, and some nice updates to refresh the Gears franchise as a whole, including perhaps some of the best multiplayer in the series, which is saying something because it did a lot of cool new stuff.
On the flip side, some felt that the game didn't quite do enough to reintroduce the series to a brand new generation, oftentimes playing things safe from a gameplay and story perspective.
So in short, it's more Gears of War, everybody. You shocked? I'm shocked.
The main thing that reviewers focused on in their time with Gears of War 4 was, of course, its campaign. Reactions about the game's story were mixed. Some felt it was too blunt, while others found it well-written and much more lighthearted. Polygon, however, called it much more effective in its story than previous Gears games, comparing its set pieces to Uncharted.
Wow, all right. Story aside, reviewers had a lot of great things to say about Gears of War 4 from a gameplay perspective. The updated gunplay was praised as being the right type of challenging, forcing you to move constantly out of cover in a nice change of pace, all while considering your next move.
Games Radar in particular loved the tweak to Gears' pace, calling it a free-flowing spatial puzzle game, writing, "You're going to have to think about every kill, which one to make, how to most effectively set it up, and how to reset to safety if it all goes wrong. You're going to have to do all this as the air is thick with shifting tides of horizontal bullet rain, and you're going to have to do it fast."
They really like their words.
Yeah.
A lot of the challenge and quickness comes from well-designed environments, which are more open and flowing than in previous games, plus the new Swarm and DD robot enemies, which change things up from the Locusts. Some enemies pounce on you over cover, while one new enemy type buffs other enemies on the field. He's basically the world's biggest asshole. I hate ones that buff other enemies.
Yeah,
They're
those
the
are
worst.
Another big change is the addition of interactive environments, namely wind flares, which are basically crazy fire tornadoes that happen throughout the Sierra as a result of wiping out the Locusts in Gears of War 3.
EGM wrote a great deal about these new, surprising weather flare-ups that might interrupt your campaign, saying, "They make even moving around the field a struggle, but finding different ways to overcome my slowed mobility was exciting."
That's every day of my life. Altogether, the consensus is that Gears 4 brought enough changes to make the series fresh again without making it feel unfamiliar. There are, of course, some dissenters. GameSpot said the new changes made the game feel like a misstep as the Gears franchise continues on its storied path. The result is a fractured mix of inspiration, exhilaration, and irritation.
And a couple of other shuns.
A lot of shuns.
Attack of the Fanboy agreed, writing, "Gears of War 4 takes few risks in the gameplay department and does very little to bring the game into a new era outside of its stunning visuals."
While fans have loved Gears' campaign in the past, the multiplayer has always had a bit more of a lukewarm reception. However, running at 60 FPS with tight mechanics and fresh new gameplay modes, like a gun game similar to Call of Duty's, Gears of War 4 may sport the best multiplayer in the series, according to reviewers.
Although it should be noted that some have criticized the modern use of the game's Gears packs, which are packs that can be grinded in-game or purchased with real-world money, as feeling too much like a money grab.
I don't know why they think that. And for those who don't feel like killing strangers, you can work with your friends to kill monsters in the game's much celebrated Horde Mode 3.0. For a great deal of critics, Horde Mode was easily the standout of the entire game, providing tons of content long after you finish.
I mean, really, that was one of the highlights of the series previously as well. IGN said of Horde Mode, the 5-player Horde Mode, however, is once again where Gears multiplayer shines brightest. The tower defense elements introduced in Gears 3 have been iterated on for the better here.
That's good. One of the big updates to Horde Mode in Gears of War 4 iteration is the new Fabricator, which is basically a 3D printer that you get new upgrades from in exchange for the game's currency. Like before, you fight up to 50 waves of enemies with the odds stacked against you more and more with every 10 additional waves, usually in the form of a gigantic boss of some kind.
However, there is one change to Horde Mode that some saw as a little bit of a downside. The new class-based system, which some saw as half-baked and not nearly as smartly tuned as the rest of Horde. Part of that is because choosing a class locks you into certain roles and weapon loadouts, which then limits the gameplay.
EGM criticized Horde Mode, in particular writing, while Horde has always been about working as a team, this feels like it forces you into a role with very little wiggle room. It also means you'll have to rely on certain roles depending on the situation, and if one person dies, your team might have a harder time coming back than they already would with a man down.
In short, it sounds like Gears of War 4 is a worthy entry into the franchise, doing a decent job at bringing the series back in a way that walks the fine line between feeling familiar but also exciting. If you're looking for an amazing story, you might be a little bit out of luck, but if you love Gears of War for the gameplay, you're gonna be just fine.
And if you want more to do when you're finished, the multiplayer and cooperative experiences are deeper than ever.
So what do you guys think of all the early Gears of War 4 reviews? Are you planning on picking up the game? And did the reviews sway your opinion at all? Let us know in the comments.
For future updates on all the new games you care about, like this video and subscribe to the Know.
And let's be honest, some games that you probably don't care about as well, unless you care about every single game, because we talk about a lot of games. Yeah, we're heroes.